Early. Tonight I just wanted to give an overview of what we do, why we do it, simply because I think we have a method, as the video made clear, a method that really isn't being done by other people. I mean, of course it can be applied in South Dakota and is being applied in South Dakota in schools. We have a couple of a superintendent here who has been very, very nice to us. And so that's a wonderful thing, but we really do want to take it nationwide, and as Camille has already intimated, it's going worldwide too, in England and Canada and India. But my point tonight is why? Where did it start? How? 20 years ago today, so it's not just the 1-year anniversary of Dobbs, it's the 20-year anniversary of Healing the Culture. 20 years ago, we were sitting around trying to think of a way to change hearts and minds, especially of young people. Middle-aged people, of course, great. We had so many confreres, in the older ranks and the more mature ranks, but boy, it was getting really terrible out there in the younger ranks. And we could just see the tide shifting. And it was almost a mystery to us why that was happening. But the real reason for its happening was the fact that they really didn't get why pro-life is truly the best kind of philosophy you could possibly have. Not just the most life-enhancing one, it's the one that's going to rescue the culture. It's the one that is consistent with the principles of culture that make so much difference and has made so much difference and to the United States position of leadership. It is not just emblazoned in the works of our founding fathers, it is emblazoned in the works of Christian writers, great Christian writers and Catholic writers. The great Jesuit Francisco Suarez we'll talk about in a moment, who came up with inalienable rights theory. Hugo Grotius, the great Christian writer who was the father of international law, but also a Christian apologist. And also that went to the hands of John Locke, who wrote a book, none other than The Reasonableness of Christianity, and right into the hands of Thomas Jefferson, into the UN Charter of Rights. These things are so much a part of our Christian tradition. They're so much a part of who we are as believing individuals who seek a kind of love, who seek a kind of purpose in life, who seek a kind of, what will we call it, political viewpoint that truly will not only enhance the lives, but protect all the rights, especially the inalienable rights of others. So I just want to give you an overview of how we work, the kind of rhetoric we have that we try to bring into the schools, high school and collegiate schools, universities especially. But the main thing, to grasp for the moment is this, that when we talk to them, we don't want to just give them a line across the table. It's too easy to sort of, pitch a line, have a gimmicky talk that gets things across. They're all wise to gimmicks. It's not going to work. What we knew what was really necessary was what Aristotle said a long time ago. When you've got two opposing sides, it's not going to do any good to shout at each other and get more emotional. You have to detach from the emotion for a moment, and you have to go up to the level of principles. And these principles, what a principle is, it's a foundation of reason, or a foundation of moral, or a foundation of social, of justice, a foundation of culture. It's a foundational thing which is so obvious it almost wins universal consent on its very utterance. And so we decided to take these principles, the 10 principles that guaranteed that civilization would persist, that guaranteed that civility within civilization would exist, the ones that were embedded in our Declaration of Independence, the ones that were embedded too in our Constitution as well, but more than that, embedded in our faith, but literally, if I might use the backward expression, the secular culture baptized our Christian principles. And now that they are so baptized and accredited as such important principles, we need to bring them out to our kids again. We need them to see those principles and to see that the pro-life position is consistent, not only consistent, but enhancing of every one of them. And an anti-life position is just a de-enhancer. It is literally a decaying of the principle itself, not just an undermining of it, but an active, destroying of those principles within the culture. If we can show that, then we can show it by first just departing from the issue at hand. Abortion, no abortion. Physician-assisted suicide, no physician-assisted suicide. Okay, we got disagreements. Let's find out what principles are involved here. The fundamental principles underlying not only our Declaration of Independence and the UN Charter of Human Rights, but our Christian Catholic tradition itself. So, the first thing to do is, what kinds of principles do we want? What are the fundamental principles? Well, we face what we might call epistemological relativism. That's just a fancy way of saying we face relativism of the truth in our culture. Honestly, if I go into a classroom, I can expect, this is a collegiate classroom. You can ask Michael Pauly, happens at Georgetown too. You go into a collegiate classroom, and what do you notice? You say, hey, who thinks that virtually every opinion is equal? Everybody, has more or less an equal opinion. We should be respectful and judge that, the opinion is more or less equal in truth value. Half the class is going to raise their hands. Kid you not. Until you say something like, okay, Newton is better than Einstein. Newton, of course, lived way before Einstein. Einstein made several vast, important, improvements over that. And they go, well, maybe not. And so, again, you get the point where they begin to see there's got to be some criterion for judging who's got a better opinion than another opinion. And so let's call those principles of truth. And so we just try to whittle it down to 3 easy ones where you could say, if it corresponds with these 3 principles, that's likely to be a much truer statement than a statement that doesn't correspond with these 3 principles. Secondly, ethical or moral principles. It was the same thing. We live in an age of moral relativism. You walk into a classroom and what's going to happen? Right? You say to the students, hey, how many of you think that most moral opinions stand on an equal footing with everybody else? Honestly, without reflecting on it, half the class raises their hand. You go, okay, so, maybe Hitler and Jesus are about on the same moral level. You'd adhere to that. Genocide, who cares? Of course they go, no, that's not true. And so again, we needed some principles that would establish what is a very good moral principle versus one that is a destructive or an undercutting of good moral principles. And thirdly, we wanted to get some principles of justice and inalienable rights, things that govern these issues in the public square. They govern these issues on the civil level, and so we also have some principles of rights, justice, and rights.